If you want to be in the know on all the progress the Antigua and Barbuda Workers Union is making for you and your co-workers, then this is the place for you. If you want to know your rights in the workplace, then this is also the place for you. The Workers Podcast, brought to you by the Antigua and Barbuda Workers Union, every week on YouTube and on Facebook. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to hit the notification bell so you can get an alert whenever there's a new video. On this very first episode of the Workers Podcast, we'll examine an issue that affects mothers, specifically new mothers, who have chosen to breastfeed. What can the workplace do so that mothers aren't disadvantaged because they have to perform this vital care function? We have a lot to discuss on this issue, and to shed some light on this, we've invited Blair, a union advocate, mother, and vice president of the Antigua and Barbuda Workers Union Youth Arm. So, you may have seen her recently in a sponsored video on this topic. Now we have the chance to dive further into this issue. Let's take a look at a conversation I had with Blair recently. During the week leading up to International Women's Day, we sort of generated some conversation and discussion around a video that we circulated of you making a passionate plea, raising some issues at the recently held, it's rather the 6th Uni Women's Conference that was held last year, 2023, in Philadelphia. Now, we're going to take a look at that video and then we're going to have a discussion on it in just a few moments. So let's take a look at that video.
On April 17th, 2023, I became a mom this year for the first time, 2 weeks shy of my 30th birthday. I had to return to work on July 19th, 2023, and talking to my co-workers who had children before me, asking them how they balance, pumping and work. It was very disheartening. Almost every single co-worker had to pump in her car during her lunch break. So they all opted to just stop after a month and switch to formula. I refused to do that because I made a commitment to myself when I became a mother. I was not choosing between being a mother, being a woman, and being a worker. I went to work with my little pumping machine, walked around my workplace, found a room, and told them, okay, cool, I need a break. I guess because, I'm associated with the union, nobody told me anything. But it's not good enough for me to get this privilege and not other women. So I went and spoke to my union, and it's something that we are going to fight for. We are going to fight for that women do not have to choose between being mothers and being employees. We're going to fight for breaks and a safe room that women can pump and breastfeed their children.
All right, Blair, first of all, I want to commend you for your incredible bravery in raising those issues and, of course, in standing in front of such a huge audience, as I was told, at the Uni Convention for Women. But I've heard a lot about women's issues in the workplace, but many times those conversations would center around sexual harassment or equal opportunities, equal pay, but I haven't really heard a lot of conversation and discussion around breastfeeding. Now, talk to me a bit about why you chose, of all the issues that affect women, I know you were a recent mother, as you said in that video, but what were some of the things that really inspired you or really gave you that push to raise that particular issue?
I guess experience is not something I ever thought about before I became a mother. And unfortunately, my daughter has never taken to formula. So I had no choice. It was either breastfeed, continue pumping, or she was going to starve. So when you have to do something, you realize how important it comes to you. I kept asking my coworkers, okay, so what is it that we're doing? Because hear me, naive, thinking, it's a common thing. Women have been mothers for years. It's something that's always going to happen, yesterday, tomorrow, the future, the present. Why is it something that has never been brought up? I guess it's because as women, sometimes we're afraid to complain because we don't want to be seen as naggers, we don't want to be seen as miserable, we don't want to be seen as less efficient workers. And that's something that's not fair, because if someone has a medical condition that we can see, we don't ever think that they're being too needy, they're being too complaining. Breastfeeding is like a medical to me, is a medical situation. It is something that has health benefits for both the mother and the child. It is something that we keep promoting our mothers to do, but we're not assisting them in doing it. I have a phrase, and a lot of my female companions and co-workers understand. When you become a mother, motherhood is the only thing, well, one of the only things that are necessary for life, but you're punished for it. You're punished when you become a mother because you're now seen as less efficient in the workplace. When you say you have to do this for your child, oh, you know, you can't be flexible, you can't be working. It's like you become a mother. Social Security tells you to have more kids. Everybody tells you your goal is to have more children. But then, where's the assistance? What allows us to be both a career woman and a mother? Why is it that women are still having to choose up to this day? But it's something that we need, that is necessary. You cannot have children without mothers. Science have not caught up to that as yet. So what is it that we can do in order to allow women to be both mothers and to have careers? Because a lot of women are choosing not to have children because they don't want to make the sacrifice, and that's not good enough.
Yeah. So I want to get into your mind and your perspective and your attitude and approach to workers' issues, to women's issues. So you mentioned in the video that you spoke to several other colleagues, whether it be in that workplace or other workplaces, that would have become mothers and would have started to breastfeed and unfortunately abandoned it because of the inconvenience of or the lack of accommodations for breast pumping in the workplace. Now, I get the impression that their attitude to the whole thing was just basically to fade away and to conform to whatever the accommodations or the lack thereof was there. But your approach, your attitude was a lot different. Why is that so? Was that because of your union involvement that sort of gave you a more assertive attitude towards having your issues and your concerns as a woman in the workplace addressed?
I think it also does come down to my union experience, have been able to advocate for more rights. I've always had a passion for advocacy, but I also do have to say I have a great supervisor willing to work with me and a great manager that allow me the flexibility. Women can do so much once we have that support. And as I said, my daughter does not like formula. So it was a necessity thing. Like the first 2 days, you're shy, you just came back to work, you're missing your child. I was like literally trying to go home. It didn't make any sense. Me driving home in rush hour lunch traffic was not working out. So I literally just walked around and found a room, other persons were understanding. I think that's because I have a lot of women around me as well. And I think that's why we need to educate more persons about this topic so more people can realize. Just us sharing this video, the amount of people that came up to me and say they wish they had that, they need this because they want this, especially when they become mothers. Even men have come up to me and say it's a good thing, it's something that we need to fight for. Because a lot of them were saying, let them save some money. They don't want to pay for formula when their mothers have kids. And that's another thing we have to look at. Formula is an expense that's normally attributed to women because there's a lot of single mothers. So by them not having this opportunity, we're sort of giving them a gender gap pay against their male counterparts. There's so many benefits, there's so many issues, and I think women need to feel more comfortable in asking what they need because we don't want to seem like we're asking for special treatment, but it's something that we require. It's not something that we're doing just because we want to be petty. It's something that's necessary for us to not have to choose, for us to feel comfortable.
So tell me, I'm pretty sure you've done the research, but where is the rest of the world as far as breast pumping in the workplace and facilities and opportunities that are available for women?
I think in the United States, because I've watched a documentary, most workplaces provide this for mothers. Some workplaces are even going as far as adding daycare so mothers can be comfortable with their children, because some of the benefits are when you allow women to have the comfort level and they feel like they don't have to choose, more women will return to their workplace because they have that accessibility, they have the support. So normally most workplaces would not just give them a safe room, they give them as extra time allotted for the pumping. They allow them to do that. Because in the United States, formula is actually more expensive than it is in Antigua because they're trying to encourage more women to breastfeed. We see the ads from PAHO all the time encouraging women to breastfeed, but where is the policy that allows us to keep up the supply that allows us to do this? I haven't really checked out other countries, but I've had co-workers from the United Kingdom when I go to these other union conferences, they say their companies allow this as well. Their companies will sometimes even add water to give them like a snack room to make them feel as comfortable as possible. Yeah. We're not asking for the world, we're not just asking for hours, we're just asking for the minimum, the necessary time and the understanding. Do not let us feel like, okay, she's taking too much time to do this, she's not a efficient worker. Understand that it's a support that we need. And when your employees feel supported, they give back more to the organization. So there's so many benefits for the organization to get as well.
So for the benefit of those of us who are not mothers, educators, how much time are we looking at as far as creating pumping facilities and its impact on the workplace?
It all depends. Every mother is different. It can be between 15 to 30 minutes. So what I tend to do, I tend to split up my lunch and my break times in order to give me that time. So I try not to take too much time from the workplace. But normally it's recommended to do between 15 to 30 minutes, no longer than 30 minutes each session. And it all depends on where your child is at that point in time. My child, luckily, has started solids, so she's not, depending on breast milk as much as a newborn child would. Because your recommended is to pump as often as your baby will feed in order to keep up the supply to meet your demand. And the more you pump, the less time you normally take through a session. So it's just for, us to come together and work together. Let us get all the stakeholders together and start the conversation.
Yeah. So it's not likely that pumping accommodations will be incredibly disruptive to the daily work.
It's really not, because you could just be putting maybe a curtain in a cubby hole, just allowing a certain level of privacy. Maybe even a manager saying, hey, I understand what you're going through. Let me know what you need and you can use my office, Things like that. The support is what's necessary, the convenience and the willingness to work along together. I'm not saying every workplace is not going to have a room, but let us see how best we can do it. Maybe, a supervisor gives up a room, you add maybe a curtain, I can put on my headphones, have the music and feel comfortable. Just bare minimum we are willing to accept. I'm not saying, give them grotesque facilities, but I'm just saying we just need a little privacy, time and understanding. Not every benefit has to be monetary for your employees to feel heard and feel appreciated.
So beyond having these conversations, what are some of the things that you intend to do to make breast pumping in the workplace a reality and a real possibility, a comfortable experience for women in Antigua and Barbuda?
What I have committed to doing, I've been having conversations here at the union, and what we as a union have committed in doing is helping develop policies by talking to different stakeholders, one that can be beneficial to both the employee and still not as disruptive to the employer. So what the union as well has committed to, not only are we going to be advocating for this, we as well are trying to develop our own policy in-house, because you can't tell the outsiders how to run their house, and it's not something we have. And it's something that we're going to be bargaining for the collective bargaining agreement. You as well have said you're going to commit it with me. Let us get some panel discussions. Let us get the experts in. Let's get the doctors in for both the pediatrician and the gynecologist. Let us educate and see how many benefits this can have for both children, who are our future, and we always say that. So why are we not investing in our future and the women? Like, for example, breast pumping has been said it can reduce the chances of you developing breast cancer. Who doesn't want a healthy workforce? And it's also beneficial to children. And when those kids get sick, mom and dad get sick after. So maybe you might never know. It might reduce the amount of absenteeism days we have. Because who's staying home with a sick child? Your employee at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Now, as we begin to wrap this conversation up, or this section of our podcast up, I just want to give you the opportunity to share any final thoughts that you'd like to add on this issue of pumping, breastfeeding, and women's rights in general.
Okay, so what I would like to say is Uni Youth and Uni Global are focusing on the 3 M's of women issues. It's going to be menstruation, maternity, and menopause, because these are 3 issues that have always bothered women for generations and decades and centuries. And it's time we have spoken up about it and asked for a little bit of accommodation in the workplace so we can be as efficient as possible. These are things that are health, and unfortunately, they're gender-based. So what I'm asking you as women as well, our counterparts, our co-workers, our members, share your stories with us. Let us know how this affects you and what do you think can be your benefit. We want to hear from you, because you are who we represent and you are who we are willing to fight for. Because one person may be weak, but together we are strong.
Now that brings us to the end of this very first edition of the Workers Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube and to join us every week on our Facebook page. Now, next week, we'll have a discussion about unionism and young people, specifically Gen Zs. Now, get this. Statistics show that Gen Zs are far more likely to be union inclined and also participate in strike action. We'll have a deep dive on this topic on the next Workers Podcast.